Howdy folks, my name is ReadyOpco, and welcome back to part number 15 of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, the finale. In the very last part, we took on dungeon number 7, the final dungeon on the Dark World map screen, but if you zoom out just a little bit, you can see that it has been replaced on our map by a skull icon, just a little bit over to the left here in Death Mountain, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into things. We may have saved the princess indeed, but it is not going to be enough. We must save both the Light World and the Dark World from the clutches of Ganon. And it appears that he is going to give us one final challenge before we're allowed to walk away from things, and I'm really looking forward to this. Right at the very front of this building here.
Dawson, we are going to break the power of Ganon's tower with our power.
I misread that, but that's okay. It's probably going to be the last time you guys are going to have to hear me do that voice. And with the power of the 7 crystals in hand, in a scene that is basically, like, I remember this almost exact scene playing in Ocarina of Time. This game inspired that game so heavily. It's so incredible. It's got the same dungeon structure. You got 3 and then 7, and actually I think it's 3 and then 6 in that game, but either way, it is going to gain us access to Ganon's tower. This is it, folks. This is the final dungeon in the game. I hope you have been looking forward to this the entire time. I know that I have, because as much as I've hyped up the other dungeons, Ganon's tower is on a completely different level. And not necessarily, I feel like what Ganon's tower actually does is that rather than being a confusing, it's not a maze. I wouldn't call this dungeon a maze as such. What I would call it, though, is a test of your abilities. And what I mean by that is that, as you can see, we've got to use the hammer, and now I have to pull out the hook shot to be able to actually proceed any further. So what I really mean by challenging you is that it requires you to have understanding of all of your arsenal. You need to have a really good understanding of what all of these items are going to do for you in order to be able to let you proceed. So I really, really think that, oh, geez, this is a tricky room. I think that Ganon's Tower ends up being a really, really fine last challenge. It works really well as a final test of your abilities. I don't think that this dungeon has any in particular. I guess I am going to bring it up one single last time before we're actually allowed to get out of things. You know, cross-room memory. This dungeon actually doesn't test that in particular. I just think that each set of rooms are cleverly designed on their own for the most part. Oh, I think I actually had biffed that. What I wanted to do is get on this side and wait for that to explode. So this is actually kind of a really good example of what I mean. So these 2 rooms require you to have a little bit of knowledge of, how to operate between them, but overall I think each room kind of stands on its own as a challenge/puzzle room, and it is overall just a really, really good design for a final dungeon. I overall think that I love the way that Ganon's Tower is laid out in this game. It's just a really exciting final climb to be able to get to the end of the game. At this point, you've done everything that the game has officially asked of you. You've saved the princess, and it's just Ganon left. That's really all it is waiting for us at the very top of the tower. So see if we can't get through here in a reasonable amount of time, and I will be perfectly honest that, you guys already know that I've done practice runs for pretty much every dungeon in this game, just making sure that I actually know how to get through it, but what I've done this time, and I suppose now that I'm thinking about it, I had forgotten at the very beginning of the video, but hopefully the people that I care about will get this message. I am so sorry that this video took so long to get out. It's about 3 days late in the making, and I apologize for that. I just wanted to make sure that I would be able to get the best possible finale for this project that I was looking for. I've been feeling overall a lot better about playing this game than I was about 64. I'm a lot less familiar with that game, and I know this one a lot better, and honestly it's closer to my heart, because I had told my stories about Super Mario 64, I played it on the Wii Virtual Console, so my experience with 64 was years removed from it being a new game. No one was talking about it, but when I played this game back in, this game came out in 92, and I must have played it in, 99 or 2000 when I was, 1 or 2 years old, so, this game and Zelda in general, like, Ocarina of Time was still part of the culture, I suppose is the best way to put that. You know, Zelda hadn't yet, I feel like in the mid-2000s it kind of had a little bit of a valley in popularity, if I had to guess, and then things got revitalized right around the time Twilight Princess came out. That game was insanely popular, and I actually remember, I have a specific memory about Twilight Princess, is that I remember I managed to snag the last copy from a Target, like very close to Christmas, the year that it came out, which was insanely rare. Like, it was literally the last copy that they had because they had sold out so many of them for both the Wii and the GameCube, which was really crazy to me. But for this Zelda game in particular, I suppose to, you know, get back on topic, for this Zelda game in particular, there really is something special about Link to the Past that I feel like this game is one of the Zelda games that you have to play. If you're trying to gain full appreciation of the series, you have to at least look at Link to the Past, and it'll show you so many of the design features that would become core to the Zelda series, so many of the things that would stick out. I mean, heck, even what I'm doing right now, keeping fairies in bottles is something that would be brought forward to the game. As a matter of fact, you can keep fairies in bottles in Breath of the Wild. You don't have to use a bug-catching net to get them, and I don't believe that game has any, like, actual bottles. But it is, you know, effectively the same mechanic. Being able to keep a lifeline on you that will actually save you if you should fall, if you should run out of hearts. So even mechanics like that got brought forward through the years, and I really think that this is a necessary title for most people to play. You found the red mail. This provides even better protection than the blue mail. And I love this color scheme, the red and purple. Like, it is really cool with the golden sword and the golden shield. It's just a really good look for Link. I actually really like this a lot. It makes me wish that in some of the later games that Link would have gotten more fancy red tunics, because in Ocarina of Time he does have a red tunic, but it is just solid red. It doesn't have the red and gold like color scheme, or the red and yellow, I suppose. So I really like the way that the red mail looks in this game. I'm a huge fan in general of the progression that Link actually goes through, because once you have the red mail and the red mail and the blue mail, as soon as you pick them up, Link equips them. You don't have an option to like turn it off or anything, if you should wish to do so. So this is kind of Link's permanent look for the rest of the game, and I actually, for what it's worth, I like that feature. I think it is really cool that Link actually changes colors throughout the entire adventure. Although, if I had to say one thing in particular about the red mail, is that it definitely should have come along a little bit earlier. I think that swapping the item... Oh dear. I appear to be stuck in the pegs. That wasn't very good. I wish that the blue mail and the red mail had definitely come into the game earlier. I feel like they arrived just a little bit too late to be super useful, especially the red mail. I mean, finding it here in Ganon's tower, we've only got the enemies to clear literally in the tower, and then we're going to be finishing things up. Okay, seriously, the game is being real picky about me standing on this particular tile. That is really goofy stuff, I gotta say. But what I was mentioning before about every particular room in this dungeon being challenging in its own way, I just love it. I really genuinely love it. I think that my hopes for future Zelda dungeons, actually, I am very much hoping that this is one that gets brought forward. The ideas that are presented here get brought forward from moving forward from Breath of the Wild in particular. Just because I feel like that's definitely, you know, that is one of the criticisms that most people, I feel, lodged against Breath of the Wild, is that it was too much of a departure from the Zelda formula. It was something that was definitely needed, you know, a breath of fresh air, if you will. but I feel like going too far in the opposite direction may have alienated some people, and this is what I'm really hoping that they can manage to nail down in Breath of the Wild 2. I've talked about it a couple of times, what I'm hoping for that game, and I really think that has to be the number one thing, is actual complex dungeons. And I think that looking at Ganon's Tower in this game, looking at this final dungeon, this could be the where to go. Where to look for ideas, I mean. The reason that I say that in particular, this game's ideas are obviously incredibly strong. I mean, I've mentioned it only a billion times, how many times different aspects would get moved forward through the series, brought in and changed and altered for the modern era, but still based in the same root idea. So many of the ideas in this game are incredibly strong, and I feel like this is one of the best ones, is that the dungeon really feels like it requires you to use your full arsenal. You need to have complete understanding of what everything in your inventory actually does for you before you're able to successfully complete Ganon's Tower. And it's just such a great place. I am having a lot of fun now, and I definitely was enjoying my practice runs running through here, just because actually finally figuring out the fastest path that you're seeing me here take. Like I said, I did 2 different practice runs. The very first run was really, really ugly, quite frankly, is the word I would use to describe it. I wasn't confident in where I was going and what I needed to actually proceed, but after doing that second practice run, I'm feeling like we can get through here. I believe we've only got a couple more rooms to actually go before we are all finished up with things, so. And when I was going through here before, as you can see, I threw on the Bombos medallion. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pop it just to beat that red guy. It's a good thing that I picked up the 3 fairies that I did. Those are definitely going to be helpful in our journey here. I know that there are hearts under these pots, but if I can even get them without taking more damage than it took to get the hearts, I'm not 100% sure. Alrighty. Oh, and there was actually something that I had learned. There we go. If you use the magic powder on those little yellow bunny transformation things, it actually turns them into fairies, the same way as anti-fairies, which I had also learned the anti-fairies. I thought that was their official name in this game, but it turns out that those enemies are indeed this game's version of Bubbles, which is an enemy that would appear in many Zelda titles from here on out. They appear in Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time that I can think of off the very top of my head right now, and they look basically the same. It's a skull surrounded by fire, so it is fascinating to me. It's not even the design concepts, like the level design concepts or the world design concepts. It is everything from this game that got brought forward. Every single idea. Like, the bubbles being transferred. If you go ahead and look at their model in Ocarina of Time, and then look at the model in this game, it is like, yeah, those are the same enemy, and I can totally see it now, which is actually really, really cool. I gotta say, I'm sure that I've gotten it across, for the most part, that I have a deep-seated love for this game. This game is just so special to me for so many reasons. It is what introduced me to Zelda, which is still my favorite series to this day. Majora's Mask is my #1 favorite game of all time, and I will still maintain that to this day. I love Majora's Mask. It was very formative during my teenage years and helped me figure out, it basically helped me figure out who I am as a person, and if I would be remiss not to thank this game for being the starting place of that. Gaming as a whole, playing video games has basically become my life, and I know for some people that sounds kind of sad, all you do is play video games all day, but realistically, it is the thing that has put me together with all of my friends. It is the shared interest that me and all of my friends have, is that we enjoy a good video game from time to time, and basically my entire friend group is thankful to this game, if you want to break it down that far, which I think is really fun to think about. It's really, honestly, crazy to think about if you put it in those sort of terms. You know, I think that it is a little unnecessary, I guess, to break things down quite that far. You know, if you look at any given event in your life, you will likely find some sort of link to another event in your life, and that's not necessarily, okay, this room sucks. It's not necessarily, okay, now I've lost my train of thought because this room sucks so much. That is most unfortunate that I was distracted, because this room, as soon as you go into it, I remembered as soon as I climbed up the stairs, I remembered what it was that I would have to do, and it totally distracted me, and for that I apologize. Where was I going? Where I was going was that, yeah, I definitely have this game to thank for basically changing my life, and it's not necessarily always useful to think of things as that deconstructed, I guess is the way to phrase it. You know, you can link any event in your life to any other given event and be like, oh, this caused that, but I really feel like it's not improper for me to look at, you know, my uncle gifting me a Super Nintendo as a 2-year-old. It's hard for me not to look at that and then look at where my life is now and not see the links and the connections between everything, you know? So, I can't say enough about how much everyone should play this game. I feel like it is a landmark title. It is something that would affect basically all of gaming from here on out, if you really want to boil it down that far. Because Zelda being such a popular mainstay series for, what is it at this point? It turned 30 in 50, oh my goodness, so this series is 35 years old, an entire 13 years older than I personally am, and it is still sticking around to this day, and I really don't feel like that would have been the case if not for this particular title in the series. Okay, alright, just kill me, Bubble. That's okay, we can use one of our fairies. I figured I would use one of them, that's why I went ahead and went to the effort of catching them with the bug net. These things happen. I'm really just trying to hit this bubble with the powder, though, so that I can recover a little bit of health. It is very, very nice. So, I would definitely say, I know that I said it at the end of Super Mario 64 too, and it's kind of difficult not to think of games in that sort of terminology. Wow, that was a difficult word to say. It's hard not to think of games for me in terms of should or should not play. I feel like there are very few games that, for me in particular at least, that I can appreciate without fully looking into them. I think that for me in particular, I don't feel like I fully appreciate something unless I fully appreciate it, you know, but to the full extent of the word. But what I mean by that is that I feel like you need to play the game for yourself to actually gain that full appreciation. I feel like there are definitely some games that are perfectly served through this format, through watching them on YouTube, and this will effectively deliver the game's content to you, but I feel like for most of the games that I play, you would be great to play them by yourself as well. I feel like that is the message I want to try to get across, is show you why you should experience this as well. So, here we are, folks. Here we are at the very final door of Ganon's Tower. And as it turns out, I sort of did this kind of intentionally. I mentioned it very early on in the series that, man, it sure would be cool if you could finish a dungeon with an extra small key, wouldn't it? Well, let's go ahead and unlock this door with our one extra small key. It's great that you could come all the way here, Dawson. I'm very happy to see you again, but you'd better believe that we will not have a third meeting. Prepare to meet your doom. I don't think that was totally accurate to how I had voiced Agahnim before, but here we are, our second encounter with the Dark Wizard himself. This is Agahnim Phase 2. I like that the color for this version of the Agahnim fight is much darker. The windows are all black because we are still in the dark world, you know? So and the lightning outside just really sets the scene for this extremely well. I love this second Agahnim fight, and because I actually am now thinking, I had forgotten to show it beforehand in the previous Agahnim fight, but if you use your bug catching net, you can also use that as an alternative to the sword to fling the balls back. It's just, it's a lot harder to do so because it doesn't pop out in front of you like the sword does. You spin around with it, so I think I will just use the sword to go ahead and clear things off. And if anything, this Agahnim fight is a little bit easier than the first one because he has multiple copies of him to fire magic for you to shoot back, so might even be a little... Oh dear. That looked extremely evil. Let's go ahead and break the established rules of this game and call the duck in the Dark World. And I think that this is really cool. You realize now that when you were standing at the very top of the Pyramid of Power here, that in the very background where the bat had flown from, in the back left there, that is Death Mountain there that you can see. And then the bridge that links the two halves of it. I think that that is such an incredible attention to detail that not many other people would have noticed or thought of, but yeah, just right there where the sun is, you can see Ganon's Tower and Death Mountain. It's such a cool feature. So, very top of the Pyramid of Power has burst open. I've only got one more thing to do, guys. I think I'm going to equip my lamp, actually. The very first item that we got in the game from our uncle's house. The very few moments in. And we're going to be finishing things off. But before we can actually go ahead and move in and finish things off, I went ahead and took the time before jumping in to actually restock all of my inventory, so went ahead and grabbed more things to fill our bottles. We've got green medicine, red medicine, and 2 fairies to save us in this fight, alongside our 20 initial starting hearts. So, re-equip the lamp, as I was mentioning, the very first item that we've ever received. Let's go ahead and jump on in, actually, for real this time.
I never imagined a boy like you could give me so much trouble. It's unbelievable that you defeated my alter ego, Agahnim the Dark Wizard, twice. But I will never give you the Triforce. I will destroy you and make my wish to conquer both light and dark worlds come true without delay.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen, our final encounter with the final boss of the game. This is Link versus Ganondorf. So, Ganondorf here is going to have a number of phases for us to go through before we are able to actually finish things off. The very first thing he's going to do is a couple of tricks with his spear here in phase 1, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that every attack that Ganon does, whether it's touching you, hitting you with those fire bats, hitting you with this fire bat, any of these attacks are going to lead to you taking 2 full hearts of health. Even with the red mail equipped, as you can see here. So, with the maximum damage reduction and the maximum number of hearts available to us, there's still going to be quite a tricky challenge, as 10 hits is going to knock us down, and a fairy only gives you 7 hearts upon revive. So, this is a very tricky situation that I'm going to be doing my best to play through to my full strengths. Alrighty, so we're going to be moving on. That was technically phase 2 there, where he was smashing the sides of the room since he put his spear away, and now we're going to be moving into phase 3.
You are doing well, lad, but can you break through this secret technique of darkness? On guard!
So this is the reason that I equipped the lamp in the first place, is because, as you can see, there are some torches at the very bottom of this room. However, I realize now that trying to use the actual lamp to light those torches is basically impossible. Don't even bother. Just use the fire rod, and I promise you will have better results. And it also makes it a lot easier. As you can see, what we've got to do, we have to light both torches on the sides of the room here. We need to strike Ganon with our sword, and in doing so, we freeze him for a moment to line up a shot with the silver bow and arrow. And I believe we've got to do it 2 more times before we're able to actually finish things off. This phase is really tricky because he is very much invisible while the flames are not lit. Like, you literally cannot see him or his path, so. Alright folks, one more hit. We can do this. This is actually, of course, honesty being my #1 policy. This is my second attempt at the Ganon fight, and the first time was very rough. I had to use both fairies, and I still failed, but this time, with 2 hearts remaining, and the obnoxious beeping, we are going to take things out. That's it, folks. We've done it. I can't believe I did it. Only 15 parts. I thought this was going to be longer than Super Mario 64. As a matter of fact, I thought it was going to be much longer, but as it turns out, my love for this game also shows in my ability to be able to beat it in just a couple of hours, so this is it, the final room. Sorry you have to listen to the obnoxious heart beeping, but I guess I'll go through the door and end it. Welcome, Dawson. I am the essence of the Triforce. The Triforce will grant the wishes in the heart and mind of the person who touches it. If a person with a good heart touches it, it will make his good wishes come true. If an evil-hearted person touches it, it grants his evil wishes. The stronger the wish, the more powerful the Triforce's expression of that wish. Ganon's wish was to conquer the world. That wish changed the Golden Land to the Dark World. Ganon was building up his power here so he could conquer the Light World and make his wish come completely true. But now, you have totally destroyed Ganon. His Dark World will vanish. The Triforce is waiting for a new owner. Its golden power is in your hands. Now, touch it with a wish in your heart. Sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, I'm just feeling down, can't kick the depression for whatever particular reason. Sometimes I will just sit and listen to this credits music from this game. Because as I've been saying basically throughout this entire video, A Link to the Past is special. Like, for whatever reason, I've had this view of this game ever since I was a kid, honestly, that, you know, it was a confusing time, it was a relic of its era, more so than anything that it just wasn't as good as I remembered it. And I've had this feeling for a couple of years, but now that I've actually played through the game again as an adult, it's been probably 8 or 9 years since I've actually played A Link to the Past, that I can say for sure that this game really is special. There's something incredible about it that sticks in the hearts and minds of people. I feel like the same way as Super Mario 64 was such an incredible first showing for 3D Mario games, that A Link to the Past was an incredible first showing for trying to make more complex Zelda games. Because if you look at Zelda 1, it has some of the ideas in place, but Zelda 1, I could certainly say, is a relic of its time. And going back and playing it nowadays, you can feel that. You can feel its age just in the way that it plays, but I don't think that I could ever say the same about A Link to the Past. I simply just don't feel that way about this game. Though it may have come out an entire 6 years before I was even born, and though it is much older than I myself, I really have to recommend, I feel like that is the single message that I want to impose upon people as much as possible, is play the game. Please take the time, play the game yourself. Even if you do it, if you need to do it 3 years from now, so that you don't remember any of this playthrough, so that you don't remember any bits of the game for yourself, even if that's what you need to do, I would suggest doing it. Especially if you are a fan of the more modern Zelda games, if you've played through them and wanted to know where everything started, basically. I can't ever say that I would recommend going back and playing Zelda 1. It's a really rough time. That game genuinely has a lot of confusion that is impossible to resolve just by exploring enough. Things that aren't obvious to you, things that you would have had to read the game manual that came in the box for. But I feel like Link to the Past manages to actually avoid all of those trappings. It manages not to be confusing, and I feel like that's accomplished if you simply, explore around the world enough. You'll just find an NPC who can give you a hint, or even if you don't, you may well stumble upon the location that you needed to find in the first place. And I would hope that every single person out there gets an opportunity. What with emulation being so available nowadays, please, I urge you, go back and play Link to the Past. I think that you'll find that you'll have a more enjoyable time than you might expect from a Super Nintendo game. And really, just, this is sort of a tangent at this point, unrelated, but man, the Super Nintendo was such a console. Such a powerhouse with so many amazing games that, realistically, you cannot replicate this experience today. I feel like if you play any of the other top-down Zelda games that, of course you're going to, I've only said it 1,000 times that this game inspired all of the Zelda games that came after it. Of course you're going to get a little bit of the experience because it was so heavily inspired, but you're not going to get the complete package of this game, which is incredible 16-bit art. Everything looks amazing. All of the colors are just, so beautiful. For whatever reason, I can just picture scenes from this game in my mind, which for a lot of 2D games, it's hard to do that for me for whatever reason, to picture specific portions of it, but not so for A Link to the Past. Not so. So, I think now's around the time I want to start wrapping things up. Who knows how long these credits are actually going to go for me. So, overall, I really enjoyed being able to play this game for you guys. I feel like I've made slight improvements, not incredible, groundbreaking, game-changing things, but I overall feel more confident about this project than I was feeling about 64. And I know that part of that comes from having the practice of 64 to be able to do before this. So overall, I've really enjoyed being able to play this game again for all of you lovely viewers. And of course, I want to say that I am eternally grateful for everyone that gets a chance to watch this video. It is my hope. I know that when I upload this, that it'll get sub 10 views upon upload, and that's just where I'm at this very moment, but I certainly hope that at some point people will be able to come back and look through this project and realize that, I have hopefully grown. I'm hoping to take on more challenges than what I've set upon myself so far for the future of this channel. I think that if I put in the proper dedication, if I put in the proper time, and I don't, as I say, deny the creative urge. I need to take the reins of my urge to want to record and do as much as possible within those constraints with that urge, I suppose. And I'm hoping that the future of this channel is looking bright from here. Hopefully I'll be able to actually gain a subscriber or two instead of hemorrhaging them. But all of that said, I believe that this final portion of the credits here is going to tell us how many times we died in each area. So, 4 times in the Tower of Hera. That is somewhat embarrassing. And Thankfully, not too many times in the other areas, but once in Ganon's tower, and technically 3 times when fighting him for the footage that was cut out, but we only died 8 times playing the whole game. And here we are, folks, the very end of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this project as much as I've enjoyed creating it. I really am looking forward to the things that are coming up in the future, and I hope that you guys are feeling the same way. But for now, my name is Reddy Opko, and I'll hope to be seeing you then.